They are good. Got it. Pickled mushrooms are good, but when you want to eat them, honey mushrooms, so you have to make sure that they are well cooked, because they create some gastrointestinal distress to many people, even when they are cooked well. So you have to be careful with them. And if you get sick after honey mushrooms, so it will pass. I went with this eco club one time, and the leader of eco club and his wife picked a bunch of honey mushrooms. They ate them, and then they were sick for half a day. So honey mushrooms are treacherous. Now I'm trying to pass on. How do I get this thing away? Okay, here we are. This is an adult honey mushroom. So you can see it changes a little as it grows. Now, this is another mushroom which is edible, but I don't pick them. I would have to be really desperate because it's nothing really that special. All these rusulas, there's a whole bunch of different rusulas. And this was the first one I ever identified by the book, okay? I knew it was a rusula, but I took it home and I got a spore print when you take the cap off and put it overnight on a piece of paper. And in the morning, you can look at the spore print. The spores fall out, and by the color of the spores, you can go to the book and decide which group it belongs to. And then by what it looks like, you can identify or not that it is a Rusula decolorans, which common name is graying Rusula. So that means that if you injure it, this bruising, it turns sort of gray. But it tastes like button mushrooms, so it's nothing really exciting. Now, this is that Rusula in slightly different color. It's quite variable. And this one is the same mushroom. Here you can see the gills. And here it is attacked by a parasitic mushroom called Hypomyces luteovirens. And these Hypomyces are, the different species of it is the cause for the lobster mushrooms. So lobster mushrooms in BC, they are sought and dearly paid mushroom, which is supposed to be something really delicious. I don't care for them. They are too crunchy. To me, they are not really that good a mushroom. This is another one where that parasite is starting under the cap. I have another picture. Somebody is calling us. They come in all colors. Rusulas are colorful mushrooms. This is a mushroom. In Europe, it's protected. Here, it's not protected. We don't have any protected mushrooms here. But when you see one or two in the forest, so you just leave them. But there are some years when they are plentiful. And 1 year, actually 2 years, they were so plentiful that I picked a bunch. And I sauteed them on butter. And they are sweet. These club mushrooms, at least this Clavariadelphus truncatus, truncated club could be common name. I found out that they are sweet, so I call them dessert mushrooms. This is another species I tried because I found maybe 2 of them in my life. And that's another one. These you can find quite often, but they are small and not worth it. Maybe if they are plentiful, I can try them, but look, you know, they are maybe 4 or 5 millimeters thick, so it's like straws. Now here we have a mushroom which doesn't have gills, doesn't have pores, doesn't have teeth, but this has this kind of cap, and the spores are growing in these hollows here. And it's a morel. And that's another mushroom which is highly appreciated if you like them. But for people like me who are picky about mushrooms, I don't care for morels because to me they are like a badly cooked octopus. Now this is another one. That's a black morel. Oh, a big mushroom. They have hollow stems. Actually, they are hollow or right into the cap. So you can try them, morels, if you want to, if you can buy them. They are expensive. They grow even in Northwest Territories and Yukon, and native people collect them for money because dealers buy them and they ship them to Japan or somewhere, and they are quite expensive. So you can try them and decide if you like them or not. And this is a relative of one called false morel. They are smaller and they grow usually on rotten wood. And these are poisonous. So don't bother with this. That's another look at the false morel. And this is another, they call these saddle fungus because most of them have this kind of a saddle, right? And this crisp saddle, you can find in the forest. I found quite a few of them in my lifetime. And I don't even know if they are edible. I never tried. They are so rare if you find one. So what kind of meal would you have if they were edible? And I thought that here in Alberta, we have only one amanita, and that's this one. You know, those beautiful red amanitas are in Europe and in some other places, New Zealand and so on. But here, east of the Rockies, they are seldom really red. They are usually yellowish orange with a little red at the top, some of them. So I always thought there was only this Amanita muscaria, the fly agaric, fly amanita. I tell you why it's fly amanita. But then I went into my archive, and all of a sudden I looked at this, and that's another amanita. This one is poisonous, real poisonous, Amanita vaginata. So we have at least two species east of the Rockies at this line of Calgary West. So fly amanita. There's a, my grandmother told me, you know, you can believe it or you don't have to believe it. They were using amanitas. They just dipped them in milk and left them in a bowl. And fly comes in and they drink the milk or try to suck onto the mushroom and they die. You know, it's something like catching cockroaches on beer. I don't know if I can believe it or not. But ever since, it must be from a long, long time, it's called fly amanita. Here you have a family of fly amanitas right from Bragg Creek, right off the bridge there on the hill. And you can see that some of them are darker, some of them are paler, and some of them get quite big. This is a biggie. You can see how big it is. Maybe it's a little perspective, you know, like fishermen showing the fish. No, but my arm is bent, so it's not an exaggeration. You know, fish you always show with your extended arm, so it looks much bigger. At least Gus told me. And here we get milk caps. You have Lactarius pallidus. So what a variety. You just have to look. Look at this Rusula. Beautiful Rusula in red. Some of them are edible. Some of them are inedible, not poisonous, but make you sick. Now here we have Foliotas. Foliotas are the mushrooms which are definitely decomposing wood. So it is at the foot of sick trees or dead trees. And I must tell you that this tree must have been dead when I took the picture a few years ago, because when I got there this year, so this tree was broken and fell down. So it's definitely it was decayed. And this is the one which we find every year on the mushroom forays in the same spot. Not exactly, so they move left and right, but this is the only Foliota which is not on dead wood, but grows in the ground. That's why it's called terrestris. But it's as good looking as that other one. And this is the one which you can find even in Calgary. I found it many times in Carburn Park. This one is from Bragg Creek, right at the beginning of the trip of our foray. Now this one looks like a Foliota, but it isn't a Foliota. This is one of those puffballs. So when they are young like this and you cut them open, they are white inside and they have real flesh. And at that stage, all of these are edible. I never ate them, never tried, but they are edible. But eventually all that flesh inside changes, ripens into spores. And then they break at the top somewhere and they spew those spores. You know, in a little 3 centimeter cap, there could be 1 billion spores. And that's a different color of a puffball. And another one. And they are quite attractive little mushrooms. These are all young ones at the edible stage. Now, this is a Lactarius, but it's not the delicious one. This one is called red, Rufus. And this one is poisonous. So you don't want to play with this one. You know, if you touch it, nothing happens. You can even lick your finger. But if you eat it, so you could get sick. It's just a different form of the same mushroom. These are sort of jewel mushrooms, cystodermas. There's about 3-4 species of them. They don't grow big, but they look so fairy tale-like. This is a reddish, orange, reddish form or species called cinnabarinum. Cinnabar is the color. That's another with open cap. You can see the gills nicely, and you can see those hanging remnants of the veil. Because when the cap is closed, so then when it's opening, so it tears that that part, and some of it stays on the stem and some stays on the cap. So this is called ring or veil, whatever. This is another one, and which is paler. So this one could be Cystoderma amiantinum. I don't see much difference except the color in these. Now, this is a nice mushroom you'll see in the other picture, which used to be Clitosibe giba. It's a fragrant mushroom. I never smelled it, I just read about it. Next time I find it, I will sniff it. But they changed the name, and look at this. Try to remember, just organize it in your mouth. Infundibulisibe. Oh my God, I can't remember that. And this is from underneath. So it's a handsome looking mushroom. And here we get to another color, purple. And this is a Cortinarius, which has all kinds of really fancy colors. I don't know if any are edible, but there's so many species that it's the biggest confusion when you try to identify. This one is called mucosas because it's got this mucus on the cap. Lots of mushrooms have mucus on the cap. So you don't want to play with it. It's not really pleasant. And this one is sanguineus, which is about blood. Now, from this look or view, why sanguineus? Look at this. This is from under the cap. So this is Cortinarius, short, court. So mushroomers say court. And here we get some other tooth mushrooms. These hydnellums have teeth under the cap. And there's a variety of these. This is the most sought after. Everybody wants to see one in their lifetime. And yeah, we find it at Bragg Creek almost every year. This year wasn't really that great yet, but might be next week. This one is called Devil's Blood Tooth, or all kinds of variation on blood and teeth and devils and all this. For mushrooms, it's a Hydnellum pecki. And this is these drops of liquid which are exuded by the mushroom. That's an excess of moisture inside. You know, mushroom is probably 90% of water. So what comes out, this is called guttation, probably from the gut, so it's guttation. So this is the most sought after, not for food, you wouldn't want to eat it. It's bitter, but it's so beautiful. It's a real jewel. And then this I found quite a few times at Bragg Creek, but it's so little, you know, it grows from a needle of a pine, or it grows from a little cone of a pine or spruce. And it's got teeth, see? So it's a little, and most of them are eccentric. They are not round around the stem. They are just on most of the side of the stem. I don't even know, it has a common name. I call it vulgar auriscalpion. It's a real fluke when you find it. Now, these are always on deadwood, Pluteus. And I took picture of these in Brown-Lowery, and then I found them at Bragg Creek a week ago or 2 weeks ago, like this one. And only later on, when I was looking at it and trying to identify, I said, oh, I found it a week before at Brown-Lowery. So this is Pluteus. I don't even know if it's edible. And Coprinus are usually found on manure, but they are on deadwood as well. The name Coprinus sort of suggests that it is growing on manure. So this one is, it looks like manure. Okay, so this one. This one wasn't on you. This one was just on deadwood. This Mica coprinus. Nowadays, you know, they change the names, so they call it, instead of coprinus, coprinellus, which is a little coprinus, and now they call it something else. Nobody can really keep track of the name changes. Now, this is a beautiful little one which grows on deadwood, Satirella. And I found actually when we were in Bragg Creek at the first foray this year, so Patrick on the first one found a whole stump full of them. I don't know if I have them here, but we'll see. Then there's a whole slew of these mycenas, and they are tiny mushrooms. You find them in bogs or in wet places in moss. They never grow bigger than maybe 7 centimeters tall, usually smaller, but they are colorful and really good looking mushrooms. This is a special one, this Mycena leana, because it has a dimple in the cap and it's sort of granulated and it has a beautiful color. Now, this one is polygramma. See, it's the similar thing on deadwood. These are a little bigger with a thicker stem, hygrosebe, and they are usually quite wet on the cap. I wouldn't say slimy, but definitely wet. Hygrosebe, it has something to do with water. Sebe is head, so they call them wax caps, which doesn't translate from hygro, but these are wax caps. Flavescence is yellow. And this is Hygrosebe conica. So you can see it's got conical cap. And this one is probably from Bragg Creek. No, this one is from Bragg Creek. They have variety of colors, yellow to red like this. But this one, I took the picture in the middle of Calgary. And you say, where can you find something like this in the middle of Calgary? Calgary, it wasn't this year. It was 2 years ago when we had wet summer. And it was under the Foothills Hospital in that park, which is called Karel Baker off-leash area. But Gus called it Shaughnessy Heights Park. Nobody knows it under that name. But right in there, in the middle of blue gentian, prairie gentians, I found these two growing. So you can see, you find them in your backyard. Hygrosebe conica. That's another one. This one reminds of a chanterelle, so it's called Hygrosebe cantarellus. This one has a reddish stem, which is a foot, so it's Hemanthopus. That's another one, which is almost violet, Hygrosebe subviolacea. Here, I don't even know. 2 different species, most likely. Maybe it's one species. When it grows up, it will look like that. This is in the sphagnum moss. This is sphagnum moss in a bog in Bragg Creek. Now, the same place. And these little guys, I couldn't get close enough. The cap is about 2 or 3 millimeters. So that stem is, you know, 0.5 millimeter thin, real tiny little things. This one, again, Bragg Creek, that's related to the wax caps, Camarophilus. This is a little lepiota, which is a nice little mushroom, but this one is poisonous. Some big ones in this family are edible, but this one is poisonous. And these lacarias are not big, but they are quite colorful And this one is the basic one. You can see those gorgeous gills, Lacaria lacata. They don't have common names. This is from the top, another couple. And these are on deadwood. And these I found in 2 years ago in Douglas Fir Sanctuary. So that's just across the water from Bonus Park. And this one, it's an odd one. It's called, specific name is vinicolor. So that means like wine. So Burgundy wine. But the generic name is the funniest to me in mushrooms. Chromgomphus. Oh my, who named it Chromgomphus? Then you have coral mushrooms. This is all growing around you. You just have to look and find it. There's a variety of these, and evidently even mycologists have problems identifying them. Some people eat some of them, but some of them are not edible or mildly poisonous, so I don't bother. I remember in the old country when I was a kid, people were collecting some of these species and ate them. And here we get to the bracket or shelf fungi. Anyway, they grow on deadwood mostly. And they look like this. This is from the top. And underneath, again, there's a variety. Some of them have pores, some of have them other variety of pores and gills as well. This is the most common one. Actually, this one is sort of complicated, but if you look at a simple bracket like this, so that's what they look like. And this one is, a common name is artist conch. And so it's not just a bracket or shelf, sometimes it's called conch. And artist because you can draw onto these pores. You can do pictures on it. I have a book here by one mycologist, professor of mycology from California, David Aurora, and he has a picture there, and somebody wrote on it, some buddy of his, Aurora, I hope you didn't pick all my boletes. So it can be used for messaging. Now, you heard about magic mushrooms, which are still illegal in Alberta, I think. I don't know about BC, but in BC, there's a different species where you can find them. I don't know if you can possess them, but I didn't even know that we had this psilocybe mushroom in Alberta. But last year when we were coming from this foray at Bragg Creek, we got to a road and this guy points these at me and said, what is this? So I looked at it, I say, you know, if I had to guess, I would say it's one of those magic mushrooms, those hallucinogenic things. And he said, are you sure? I said, no, I'm not sure, but I took pictures and I took it home, and under these needles, there was there were some horsepox. So psilocybe coprophila, so that means that it's manure loving. So I looked at the gills, and by the description in the book, this lightly violet gills and the cap like this with the edge of, with the rim. So this is our magic mushroom in Alberta. I saw it only once in my life, and evidently it's not that hallucinogenic, just mildly. And these you can find on fallen down trunks of trees, Gleophyllum sepiarium, quite colorful, pezizas, these cup mushrooms. They are sort of jiggly when you touch them. They are probably edible, but I never tried. You don't find enough to try. Now, these are just cute. They have these eyelashes on the rim. I don't know if I have a real, let's have a look if I can. Oh, look at that. You can see the eyelashes. So this is eyelash mushroom or fungus. And in Latin, it's scutellinea, which means like little shield. So it has nothing to do with eyelashes. But when I look at this, so these are fruiting bodies of a of a slime mold. I don't know which one, but I never noticed that until I magnified it here. So we have to get it back to normal to move on. And this is another jelly mushroom, Dacrymyces, which is quite common. You can find it on deadwood. And this one we found in Brown-Lowery 2 weeks ago. And there was a bunch of them, but I kept this one. It looks like fire. And that's another of these jellies, jelly fungus, Calocera cornea. There's a couple of species available. The other one has long prongs, just in yellow. Actually, this one is usually in yellow. This one, because of something, it caused her to get colorful tips, probably some chemical in that wood. It looks like it was a little burned. And I don't know if we magnify it. You know, these little white specks could be something else too. So I guess I have to magnify lots of my pictures to find different species, which I didn't intend. Now, here we have another bunch of cup mushrooms. This is one species, and which is some species of that eyelash one, but these eyelashes are not really eyelashes. So this one is from Pennsylvania, first described, found in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvanica. And this yellow one is Bisporella citrina. So it has probably double spores or something. And because citrina, because it looks like lemon. And this is what I found at Bragg Creek 2 weeks ago, under a branch. So that's another Bisporella citrina. Now look at this. This is a mycena of some sort, and it's parasitized by another fungus, which is called Spinellus fusiger. And I found it only once, and it was at the time when I had just a basic camera, so I couldn't really go closer to see it better, but maybe at least you can see that each of those stems of that parasite has a spore head, sporangium. So that's something really special as well. Now, this is that blue-green one I mentioned at the beginning. And that was, again, before I had a decent camera. So that was the best picture I ever took, which is in the gate. This one is a little better, but again, nothing to really be proud about. And you will ask, what is this? So imagine this is our official provincial lichen. So first, you can find it as this bluish spray paint. And at that time, It has a common name, spray paint, without these pink things. And when the conditions are good for fruiting, so it starts growing these fruiting bodies, and then it's called fairy's puke. And some people would like to find it and see it in real, and it's quite common. I wasn't noticing it until I found out that 1,500 people voted it as a provincial lichen. So every time I go in the forest, I find it somewhere. You can find it even in Douglas Fir Sanctuary. Now, this is another fruiting body of a lichen. It was considered a mushroom of its own, Omphalia, because it has this navel depression at the top. But then they found out it's a fruiting body of a lichen, so they changed it and call it now lichen Omphalia, and lichen umbelliformis. And it's not that rare either. You can find it if you know what you're looking at. This one is from Brown-Lowery 2 weeks ago. So you can see that navel here and umbel of the cap, and this is the stem. And it grows from this kind of undefinable lichen. And here, not corals of the sea. These are the lichens I found. If you know where Ing's mine is, when you go west from Bragg Creek towards Elbow Falls, so on the slope above that canyon creek, they are formations, beautiful formations of rocks, which is mostly sandstone and only a rough compound stuff. And if you go into the aspen forest above it, it's quite steep there, but all these rocks are grown over. Here they are so many species of lichens. I even got names for them. I won't bother you with them because I can hardly remember them. But look at this fire lichen. It even has a name after fire, igneous something, and this is some Fissia, and oh my God. And that's another piece. This is all from the same place. This is Rhizoplaca chrysoleuca, another beautiful one. Like when you look at it, all these things here in the picture look really huge, but they are not. They are really small. Those largest ones could be maybe 4 millimeters. So you have to look at them. You better have your magnifying glass with you. Look at this Rhizoplaca. It's got the blue-green blue-green color. This one's called melanophthalma because this is almost black. I guess some of these apothecia, these fruiting bodies on lichens, are called apothecia. So these orange apothecia and blue-green apothecia and all kinds of apothecia. And why do I have Foliota terrestris here? I don't know, because this is probably what I added later on. So we talked about these decomposing Foliotas. Oh, this is a story, okay? So actually this is Bragg Creek, this creek here. And behind me in the hill is my son's property. He has a house there, and steps going down to the flats, to the creek. And then you have to get down to the creek, steep bank. On my side, even steeper. And I said, look at this. This looks like this Foliota, which grows on poplars, Foliota populnea. And how do I get there? That creek was quite deep here. So imagine I'm 77, so I got onto this tank, sitting, and I was shimming left and right, all this until I got here. And I took pictures of it and I said, oh, I cannot shimmy backwards. How could I do it? Because you have this bark in here and that shimming is really difficult on it. So I let myself down onto this bank here, which was about 6 feet, maybe 7 feet. So it wasn't that bad. And then I took pictures from the other side. So you see that I'm not lying. And then I said, how do I get back? And so I went along the bank, and there was a little dam down there. And from pebbles to this size. So I got on it, and of course it was slippery, and I slipped, and one of my shoes filled with water. I was up there up to my knee, but I got over it. Fortunately, it was that close to the Karel's deck, so I could empty it and get home. Okay, so that's an adventure. And this is a beauty which we found, which Patrick found on our first foray this in end of August. And at that time, I didn't have the name, but this is the Satyrella hydrophila. And the whole stump was grown over with it. This is just one group, which looks like a unit. And this is the view from underneath. I'm proud of this picture, but imagine what happened to me when I got there. I had my camera with my macro lens, and so I tried to press the shutter, and it says, battery exhausted. And I said, oh, I have another battery in the pocket here. So I put it in, and it wouldn't even come up. That spare battery exhausted itself. So I was without macro lens. So I had to pull out my pocket camera. It's a Sony as well. So these pictures are with my pocket camera, even this one. And I'm proud of this. This is a beautiful picture as far as I'm concerned. Even little mushrooms with 1 centimeter large or 1.5 centimeter large can be quite colorful. This is from Brown-Lowery 2 weeks ago. This is another colorful one. You know, there's no common name for Rhodocolibia butyracea. That's another, you know, this Stropharia, this is hornemone, but we don't have that other one here, which is, I don't remember the last name, but it has a blue-green cat with white specks like this. Beautiful. And of course, scaly stem. That's a beautiful Stropharia, but we don't have it here in this area. Here you have the bucket mushrooms, even a reddish one. And, you know, I was concerned about this red color. I took this. And then when I got home, I noticed that I have this purple crust mushroom, which I always wanted to see, and I just ignored it because I like this red bracket. So that's a Chondrostereum purpuraceum, purple crust fungus. This is another one. Now, on the last foray, a week ago, I was saying, you know, there's this hericium growing here. We found it once, and I haven't seen it since. And then one of the people says, hey, come here. So we had to go back about 20 meters, right behind the bridge, under the fallen rotten trunk. He says, is that it? And there was a beautiful hericium, which is called lion's mane. And they say, here it is. This is what he found. And they say it's good against some mental problems and so on, depressions and so on. I don't believe in those things. You know, you find it 3 times in your lifetime. So how can you feed on it regularly? So this is close. So it's coralloides. So that means it reminds of a coral. Look, it's beautiful. Now, there are several species of this in US and in BC somewhere. Instead of these corals, you have these long teeth. It's a tooth mushroom, yes. And that one has a different name. It's a Hericium coralloide, americanum. Now, don't confuse Hericium with Hieracium. Hieracium is hawkweed. This is another, this is cauliflower fungus, which I found at Bragg a couple of years ago. Brought a piece home and ate it. It tasted like cauliflower. Cauliflower is easier to get. And here you get to slime molds. And these are fruiting bodies of slime molds. So this one is called wolf milk. So if you press this ball, it will burst open, and out of it comes this thick pink or reddish, like you see here, liquid. Not really runny, really thick. So this is an early stage of this wolf milk. Lycogala means lyco is wolf, gala is for milk, and epidendrum, that it grows on the tree, epidendrum. And this is behind Karel's house on a stump. So this is the later stage, ripening, where you can see leaking at insides, and eventually it will fill with spores, and when it bursts open, so black spores are falling out. This is an early stage of wolf milk. And if we want to get out of our backyard, so there are lots of our stuff you can find even at the equator. So in Ecuador, I found quite a few mushrooms, which we have here. They grow there as well. But they have some things in tropical areas which we do not have here. And this is one of those stinghorns, which is the name Staheliomyces cinctus. Cinctus means choked up here. So I found this by a real fluke, and I was really surprised. Look at that. And this is a stinky part, which is quite adhesive. No, not really. No, it's just slimy. And the fly go to get there. This is another one which you can find around Calgary. Not this species, but these earth stars. We have these white ones. I found them at Douglas Fir Sanctuary, but this one is Rubropusillum, so it's a small one, a reddish color. This is the embryonic one before it splits open into this. And in here, they will be little bodies which contain the spores. So this is one from Ecuador. And these are cup mushrooms, mushrooms which grow in tropical areas. Now, I found out that these tropical ones are very similar all around the globe. So what you find in Ecuador, you can find in tropical Africa or in tropical Asia and in tropical Australia. So this is one of those smooth cuquinas from Ecuador. And this is a hairy one. So you can see it grows on dead wood. And this is about it. So I can unshare because unless you want to see some things again. So maybe you can ask questions.
Well, thanks, Karel. That was great.
I hope I didn't bore you.
Oh, you're okay.
Yes, I'm finished with the pictures, and now I opened to any inquiries or questions or whatever.
Sure. So what we'll do then is if people have a question or comment, they can put it into the chat box, just type it in and press enter, and then those questions will pop up, and then I can relay the questions over to Karel. So if you have any thoughts, we got a couple of nice comments about your photography. You must have a really nice camera to be able to take some of those close-ups.
Technology. You know, I found out when I go into my pictures that I took some really good pictures even with my more primitive cameras. But now I have this little Sony HX80, which is a really pocket camera. Now I can show you how small it is. So it has a zoom and you can get quite close, not really that close, but you could see on those late pictures that it will take really good close pictures. So this is my workhorse for scenery and everything. And then I have this Sony Alpha 6000. I bought it secondhand, and it's got so many features. Even that little one has so many features that you cannot know all of it. You are learning all the time. But I bought a macro 30 millimeters, which on this size of the camera is actually like 45 millimeter lens. And I can double it digitally to 90. I could do it digitally even more. But at doubled digitally to 90, I don't see any difference between prime lens and digital image. So I have this flexibility, and I use this camera now carrying in my bag just with the macro. And if I have to take a scenery, I take it with the little camera.
Perfect.
So it's not really that that specialized. The thing is that you know, when you get real close, you have to watch your light, because sometimes you are shading these little things, and for that I have this thing. You can buy it. It takes 2 AA batteries, and you can vary the intensity of the light. So with a flash, you can shade your stuff with your lens, so you don't get that light. But with this, you can go from any side you want.
Oh, great idea. A couple of questions there, Karel. How did you develop your love for mushrooms, and how long have you been interested in mushrooms?
That's funny. uh, I come from Czech Republic, from Eastern Bohemia, and everybody goes mushrooming. So my parents took me mushrooming when I was a little kid. And you learn what you should pick and what you shouldn't. And I have to say that my parents were very conservative, and they weren't picking all kinds of stuff, only really good stuff, which you cannot really make mistakes. And so over 70 years of experience, it sounds funny. Of course, when I got into photography here in Canada, so I was taking pictures, botany. I was going with Gus and then sharing the duties with Gus for botany. And of course, I liked mushrooms, and I saw the variety. And if you take pictures, so you have to find out what you are taking pictures of. At least I have to. I can see in that group I created 41,000 people, and most of them don't really care what it is, but I do care. So I have books here. I have at least 16 different books. Not that I'm using all of them, but I'm using at least four basic books for mushrooms. And I know for sure that even if I give it a name, that it's only tentative. I wouldn't, on something I'm not sure of, say, oh, let's try to eat it. No. No way. Because when I was a kid, actually that was later on. When I was a kid, I had a friend, and he lived with his grandparents. And his grandfather was into nature. He was a hunter, and he was picking mushrooms, and he knew everything. He was even making wine out of any berries and dandelions. And at his late age, he picked something which he thought was okay. And he poisoned the whole family, and his daughter died. So, there are cultures where they pick mushrooms, and they pick a wide variety. And some of them are easy to mistaken for something else. And that's why in countries like in Eastern Europe and France and Italy, you have so many mushroom poisonings, because people are not critical enough for their knowledge. Mushrooms, what we have here, there are not many of them which could kill you, but lots of them which could make you really sick. And they say that these death angels or whatever, amanitas, they taste good. At least people who got poisoned and survived, they say, oh yeah, they taste good. But nothing happens for a couple of days, maybe. And then third day, your liver's gone and your kidneys are gone and you're gone. So, you have to be critical. And if you eat something suspicious and on the second day you don't feel really good, you better run, because they have some extracts from milk thistle. It's produced in Germany, and it's shipped to all these countries with high mortality. And they say if you catch it early, that extract can save you.
Interesting.
So, you know, it's a sort of fairy tale thing. These mushrooms, mysterious. This David Aurora book, look how thick it is called Mushrooms Demystified. And he lists here or talks about 2,000 species from North America only. Now, when you go to internet, you can get estimates anywhere from 500,000 to 5 million species of mushrooms estimated. You know, 500,000 to 5 million. And we know described of them are maybe 10%. So, you know, you can find new species all the time.
Couple of questions there, Karel. One is what was the brand of your macro lens? What type of macro lens were you using?
It's a Sony.
A Sony.
Sony 30 millimeter. You know, when you go to 50 millimeter, which would be 100 millimeter on this camera, so then you are looking at $600. But if you go for 30, so it's only 300. So it depends on your budget.
I would imagine.
I couldn't justify $600 for a lens, which on top of it is really heavy and clumsy. My son offered me, oh, I'm not taking it with me, just to use my 90 millimeter Sony G macro. I put it on the camera. I took 2 pictures with it and I said, no way I'm going to bother with this log. It's heavy, it's clumsy, and I'm in the terrain, and I'm not going to carry a heavy tripod and spend half an hour on one mushroom. This way I can get decent pictures and do lots of them.
Perfect. A couple of more questions before we wrap up. One is, do you recommend a local book, like a book that's good for local mushrooms?
There's no real choice here. There's this old book by Helen Schalkwijk-Barendsen, and they published it again. I have it here with a different cover, but inside it's exactly the same book. They are drawings, paintings. Okay, the paintings are good. I would prefer photographs like in the one for the West by Baron. But even if you get this one, this East, I mean, so it's quite usable even here. So both of them are good together.
Great,
and I'm
thanks.
still using a California book, which is excellent, but you know, we don't get lots of California stuff here.
Okay. You mentioned you were a certain age. So one question was, obviously, you was wondering if you'd ever been poisoned.
No.
I've
never been even sick. No, but
lots of experience.
My son, my older son, yeah, this is an interesting thing. You know, I mentioned that oyster mushrooms, cultivated ones, are from a sterile environment, so they cannot catch anything. So he can eat cultivated oysters without any problem. But we collected some of these oysters in the wild. And I remember when I was there, he ate them. Not that he would eat a bunch of them, but in a meal. And he felt sort of, he was complaining that he was sort of sick for a couple of days, and then it was gone. But last year, he collected them again and he ate them, and he got really sick, and he got this what's the name of that gland? Oh, when you get cancer of it, so you're gone.
Prostate.
Not prostate. No, not prostate. The other one starting with P.
Pancreas.
Pancreas. He got pancreatitis. And the only explanation was that it was from those wild oysters. Now, I didn't know that before, but I found it in one of the books on biology and all this. Oysters are known as predaceous mushrooms. And so they grow on trees, on the bark, just attached. So mycelium is spreading under the bark and on the bark. And they are nematode worms present there. And these myceliums can attack those worms, envelop them and absorb them. So they are predaceous. And the only explanation to me, of course, this is a scientific anecdote, right? When I say it, it would have to be proven. But the only explanation is that these wild oysters, while predating these nematodes, are creating some kind of a substance which some people cannot tolerate, and they can get sick from it. So Philip now on doesn't eat wild oysters. He eats cultivated one from the store, but not wild. So they are odd things with mushrooms.
Yeah. So, Karel, I think that brings us to the end of your presentation. There's got lots of nice comments about the beautiful photographs and all the interesting information that you have provided. And so I really would like to thank you on behalf of Nature Calgary for stepping in at short notice to be able to show us all your great images and the stories that relate to them. So I really appreciate that. So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And I'd like just to remind our viewers here again that we will be meeting again in 1 month's time on October the 20th. And we'll have a lady from the Alberta Community Bat Program talking about Alberta bats. And that kind of leads us right up into, I guess, Halloween. So it might be a good topic for that type of time period. So anyways, I'd like to thank you all. And take care, and we'll see you on the trail or perhaps at one of our meetings. So once again, thanks, Karel, and thank you all for attending. Good night.
Bye.